Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to chat with Pete Barusic about the real challenges that caregivers face. Everything from the hidden value of family care to tips for thriving under pressure. Plus, here's some heartfelt stories that might just change the way you see caregiving. Well, let's get started. Welcome, Pete. Thank you for joining me this beautiful Saturday morning. So, we
Oh, you're
met
welcome.
last week, I believe, or the week before. I lose track of time. And you were telling me about your business that you've started, and it just sounds like something that will really fit well into my community and could be used by my patients, my caregivers, and whatnot. So I wanted you to come on so that you could share what you're doing, and we'll try to spread the word. So if
Oh,
you don't mind kind of telling us a little bit about who you are, background, and what you're doing these days.
well, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, so I've been a physical therapist for 30 years. I've been in home health for over 20 of them. And, unfortunately, I've seen the rise of caregiver burnout and stress over those years. And I've actually been in the middle of the past 2 years. I've had to take family leave 3 times. I had 4 different events where I was helping to care for family members. And I can be honest, I didn't do things right the first time, but I did perfect it towards the end. The last time, actually, my wife had breast cancer in last August. So I kind of helped her through that journey. And so I have found over the past year or so that I tried to transition to life coaching. Felt that I was physical therapy was great. I love physical therapy. I will always be a physical therapist, but I felt that there was more, that I was missing some components as it came to just listening, being there for my clients, and then helping them to really navigate this health and well-being, which is getting more difficult. So that's been the transition over the past year. I actually left physical therapy officially in December, and now I've been doing coaching and getting out in the community doing events on thriving under pressure and caregiver stress and burnout.
So what kind of events are you tagging on to other people's events or creating your own?
Little bit of both. So what happens is I have partnered, and I'm in Greensboro. So I've partnered with 2 local businesses, a gym that I work out at TFW Greensboro, and I have actually held one event there last week. I have another one coming up on April 27th at 9 a.m. It's Saturday morning, and it's going to be the same thing, thriving under pressure, unlocking the secrets to stress resilience in a parenting and a caregiver role. So it's open to the public. You can go to my website, www.inbetweenseasons.com. Everything is on there. I'm also holding them over Zoom. I have another one scheduled on April 30th, and I'll probably start doing one of those maybe every 2 weeks, depending on my schedule. And then I'm looking for other businesses to partner with on this topic, or anything related to this topic.
So what do these events entail? First of all, like, how long are they and what are you discussing?
So they're an hour long, and part of it is telling my story. Like I said, I've had 4 opportunities, as I call them, over the
Mhm.
past 2 years to learn how to be present. First time, just quick, my mom had some health issues. They're up in Buffalo, New York, and I had to take family leave twice to go up there over the past 2 years, about 3.5 weeks, to just immerse myself into helping her transition from hospital to rehab and then to home. So some of that is the things that I've learned. So what I've done over these past 2 years is I've really come away with 4 different takeaways of things that, okay, how are we showing up for the person who's going through a health event? And I call it a health event because they didn't choose to go into it. So we got to navigate through it. So I've learned really 4 basic steps showing up. Am I listening to them? What are those things that, they're telling me and I'm just not paying attention to? And then what are the things I can change and not change, basically? And then what is our choice? How can we work together to kind of turn this into a better situation? So those are and I kind of walk people through all those steps through examples of how I've learned the right and wrong way and things I've learned over the years, as a home care physical therapist. We're in the homes, we're in the middle of many, many storms. When they come home from the hospital, sometimes they are aware of things that they were heading this direction. Sometimes it's a sudden, and their life has been turned upside down. So some of it is professional, some of it is personal. So I've worked on kind of connecting that together in an hour session, and then just really, it's interactive. And the hope is to springboard this into a longer, more interactive workshop, maybe some small group type of stuff. And that's in the transition for the future.
So after the 1 hour, are people invited to work with you independently? Is there any type of, service, I guess, like that after?
Yeah, so what I do is I basically have I call it a three-prong effect. So speaking, like doing these engagements or these events, as I call it. Yeah, and I also do coaching. So I have coaching packages where I'll work with people. Usually the goal is a 9-session package where they'll come in and we'll work on things. And it's not mentoring, it's not consulting, even though I have experience. It is me really truly coaching, asking questions. Okay, how did this make you feel? Okay, let's talk about that. Let's get into what are some other ways maybe we can reframe that situation. What do you think they're going through? So kind of some coaching. And then I also do something called an energy leadership index assessment, where it is a 70-question attitudinal assessment. And it's something through the coaching program I went through. It's basically, they developed it. It's like the Briggs-Meyer, if you've ever heard of the Briggs-Meyer. And so it's a 70-question attitudinal assessment, and it looks at the energy that you have and how you're presenting self when things are normal, when everything's going well, and then what happens when you get under stress. So something happens, you get under stress. Where do you go? Are you going to this negative energy? Are you going to a victim mode? Are you going to everything's happening to me, I have no responsibility for my actions? Or do you get angry? Do people go to that default where you just start pushing everybody away and getting angry? And this really does a great job of kind of looking at the difference. And then what I can do out of that assessment is say, well, okay, let's say you're caring for your mother and your mother doesn't want to do what she wants you to do. Okay, where are you going? Are you getting angry? How can you, show up a little bit better? So we get to actually talk about specific situations where this happens, and then we work on strategies, and that leads into the coaching. So this assessment is great as a tool to really have that awareness, like, ooh, maybe I'm not showing up real good with that person. I'm doing great with everybody else, but I'm really struggling in this situation. We can talk about that and set up a coaching plan where we can meet weekly, bi-weekly, whatever works for you, and then say, okay, what's our goal today? And we're going to talk about this relationship. What do we need to work on in this relationship, and how can we improve it? And really, I call myself an accountability police. I'm here to basically, when they come back and say, yep, I did that, Peter. No, I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. Now, do you also incorporate for lack of a better term, the patient, or are you just working with the caregiver?
I can do both. Yeah. So I'm actually working with a husband and wife, someone who's going through cancer right now. So yeah, so I've worked with both, and I'm working on their relationship. So working on things. So I can do both. There has to be buy-in. That's the problem, is if there's not buy-in, and if it's, I've tried to force my mother to do things, and this would not work if a situation like this, if she didn't want to come to the table and actually work on some of the things. So yeah, they have to be two willing participants. But yes, I think there's huge benefits of working with a client and also with their family members, to where we can work on some kind of synergy there, that they can
Yes.
work together.
I think
We do that in home health all the time. We're
all
working
the
with
time.
caregivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say maybe half of my visits are actually physical therapy. The rest is, yeah. But I think when we're caring for someone who is sick or dying, that communication, it changes. And I think working with both people, I can see definitely an advantage to that. I as I helped my husband as he was dying, I think back to things that he halfway said that he was needing, but I only halfway heard or didn't really hear until it was too late. Like, oh, you just wanted me to be with you more, and I
Yeah,
didn't fully appreciate that.
yeah,
So I think that is really great working with
yeah,
them and helping those care partners to hear things that are important. So
yeah. I thank you for sharing that. I know it's always difficult in that situation, and I think we get in that tunnel vision sometimes. We look at task. I
yes,
need to get this task done. We got to do this bathing or dressing or whatever that task is. And I think we lose sight of that, where that disconnect, and we're, that it's that old argument, listening versus hearing. Are we really listening? Are we listening with some of our own filters, our own preconceived judgments? Or we have our own expectations of what we think they're going through without actually being curious and asking and like being present? Like you said, he just wants you to be present
yes,
and just be there. And really, that's what we all want. Our human need is love, and we want to be heard. So
yeah,
if we can work on that as the focal point, and then everything else can kind of fall into place. But it's hard when I've been there.
yeah.
When a
I mean,
task needs to
full
be
caregiver
done,
mode.
it's
Are you
we're going to get it
clean?
done.
Do you need
Yep,
food? What do you need?
yep,
But not
yep,
really taking into account
yep,
their emotional needs because,
yep,
you're not going to get that time
yeah,
back. So, and sometimes there are conversations that I wish I had had with him, um, like on a deeper level. Like,
yeah,
are you afraid of dying? Or, what?
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not really certain, but I can tell you that it was a very practical approach that we both took. Let's set up all the finances.
yeah,
Okay, when I'm gone, this is what you need to do, honey. And I'd say we're
yeah.
both pretty much on that level. But I look back and I wish I had someone to say, "Hey, tune into other stuff." So
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you're going through that. When you're going through
yeah,
that, you think that you need to be practical, and one, I think it's helps us kind of protect ourselves, because we also don't want to be the exact opposite, where all we're doing is crying all the time,
no,
all day
no,
long, and nothing gets accomplished because we're in that state of mind. So I think there's something called balance. I
a
think if we can
balance.
find that, we can
Mhm.
find that nice balance in there. But I'm sure you've seen it. And again, I've been on both sides where I didn't act appropriately, I would say, with my mother the first time, because I was drill sergeant Pete. I was get everything done. We need to do
Yep.
this. And I didn't once ask her what she needed. I
Mm.
knew best, and I made the changes and did everything. I didn't really listen. And I think it's amazing what happens when we can just listen and be open and non-judgmental and just really appreciate the minutes we have, because none of us are guaranteed anything anyways. So
No.
I think just let's appreciate this time. Let's work on approaching it with just a better energy level and just a better situation. And there's a whole lot less stress. We're not doing this clashing about everything.
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely. Wow. That's
Yeah,
some deep work. I mean, I know
it, yeah.
you, I mean, I kind of know why you're doing this, but was there any like moment that made you think, this is what I need to do with my life now? I mean, what was the trigger for you to switch?
A couple different things. So I went through kind of like a spiritual awakening about a year ago. I got involved with a group, Marked Men for Christ, and that kind of opened my eyes. I was able to work out some of the stuff from my past. I had some things that I've been carrying with me since childhood, and I was able to let that stuff go. So that kind of started it. Then my mom getting sick, kind of added to it. And then we actually, in 2022, September 2022, we cared for my mother-in-law. Was in Florida, and she had her best friend of 70, probably 75 years, come live with her in Florida. This woman was 89 years old. never married, never had any kids, living by herself, was coming to end of life. Yeah, coming to end of life, and just said, I want to go to nursing home to die. I'm getting to the end stage. I have no one here. The only person she had really was my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, being a retired home health nurse, said, no, you're coming to live with me in Florida. Took her to Florida. She spent a year there, and getting ready to enter hospice, and Hurricane Ian happened, and they lost their house. So my wife and I took both of them in and took them to our house. Long story short, my mother-in-law ended up breaking her hip in Orlando on the way out. So they came. My mother had a broken hip at 87 years old. We have Leona, who's 90, who I really barely know, come into our house. We started hospice that first week when we came back in October, and we helped her transition to end of life. Cared for her while we're working. My wife's an OT. Luckily, we're in the healthcare field. But during those 2 months, I really saw, and that opened my eyes, because I was caring for someone that I really didn't know, helping her transition through hospice. So again, when I talk about being aware of what she needed, and you think about somebody who lived alone for pretty much 89 years of your life. You do what you want when you want to do it. You have control, and she's losing control. Dementia was starting to come on. And so we had to navigate that dementia piece as well. So that's where I really had to be creative, and we had to figure out, okay, how can we approach this situation? Okay, what does she really need? Because I could have been frustrated so many times.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, what does Leona need? Okay, maybe the food's too cold. Okay, let's make sure it's hot. Let's do what does she need? I want to dress myself. No, I can't do it. She was struggling in that stuff. So it really forced me to be more aware of the situation, figure out what she wanted to do, and then I had to a choice to accept things. And it's like that really opened my eyes when you're caring for somebody you don't know, and then to be able to get her into hospice house as she passed away and be there with her, and all she wanted was two basic needs: to be loved and to be heard. And so it was just an amazing experience to be able to walk her across the finish line of life, and just to be with her, and thinking that my wife and I, even though it was stressful at times, she would have been in a nursing home by herself with no one there. So we think about that, and I value that time. And that I came out of that saying, this is it. This is what I need to do, because I've seen the struggle. I've seen situations where you go in, family members are screaming at each other.
Mm.
I've been in many storms, and there's a better way to do this. And I've seen the frustration of just those people stuck between parenting, caring for an older parent, but then still having kids. So there's that stress. I'm like, here's my demographic, here's my target. And I just felt, this is it. This is where I need to go. And so I said, just quit PT, and said, I don't know how it's going to look, but this is how we're going to go. We're going to go down this road.
Yeah, new path, new path.
Yeah.
So then you uh, took some courses or something for life coaching. How is it a
Yeah.
certificate type thing?
Yeah. So IPAC is the program I went through, and it's a 9-month program, very intensive, awesome program. Best thing I ever did. I really wish that I had did this 25 years ago, because I've always said that as a physical therapist, we need to have a psychology minor or a major. It needs to be combined in there. And so it was really good. So I started that program beginning of last year. So it would have been early 2023. So I went through and did all the coursework, had, mentors that went through, did everything, and I'm done. So actually, I'm a certified professional coach and certified health and well-being specialist. And so it's been a great program to go through, and it was pretty intensive, and it really taught me a lot. And
Mhm.
if that alone, if I didn't decide to go into coaching, if I just went through the program, it helped my relationship so much with my son, with my wife. Like I said, in
Mhm.
August, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was in such a better place that I did not once try to control the situation. I let her process what she needed to process, and I was just there for her, to help
Mhm.
her, to guide when needed, but really no expectations. She was in complete control of whatever she wanted, and I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for the coaching program and the kind of the spiritual awakening I went through. Those two things, and we'd probably have a different conversation, because I was Mr. Control, you need to do this, you need to do
Uh,
that, consultant, mentor. It was nice to take that hat off because my stress level went down completely letting that go.
wow. Yeah. So that's what you're trying to do for others then is take that
Yeah,
stress off, really. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's only getting worse. We have 53 million unpaid family caregivers out there. 53 million, and that's growing, so it's probably higher now. That was the 2022 numbers. And on average, they're providing 18 hours of care a week. So that's an addition. Most of them are working. So
Yeah.
61% of them are actually working and then caring for somebody. So stress level, they're already stressed as it is from just
Hmm.
life in general. And then now they're stressed having caregivers to care for somebody that some they knew was going to happen and some they didn't. And
Hmm.
some they're finding out that I have too many friends that are now struggling and figuring out how to care for their parents who are usually out of town. And they're going through that. Okay,
Hmm.
how do we do that and still prime working hour? These
Yeah.
are our prime working years.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a struggle, and it's only growing, unfortunately. And the healthcare system is not doing a good job. We don't have paid caregivers. We don't have enough help, so the families have to take that burden on.
Hmm. Or spend a lot of money to pay for somebody, which,
Yep.
and who knows what kind of quality of help you're going to get. It's incredible, the variance I've
Yeah.
seen, the
Yeah.
couch sitters versus the doers, but
Yeah.
it's,
And it's hard, and getting them to show up. So that's the thing I'm sure you've seen since COVID. It's even worse. I think we actually, the number, if I remember correctly, was I think in 2022 we had a 61% turnover rate of our caregivers, of the paid caregivers. So they were coming in, and we would see them. You'd see them once, you maybe see them twice. The next thing you'd have a new caregiver, and if you talk to our clients, and we are going out there, they didn't know who was showing up and when they were showing
yeah,
up. So it was
yeah,
very inconsistent. Luckily, once in a while, you have somebody, you're right, that would be so involved and you could tell they were great and they
yeah.
loved what they were doing. And then unfortunately, they may have a client who wasn't very receptive or not very nice sometimes. And you're like, you have the best caregiver that you can possibly imagine
Yeah.
that wants to do stuff for you. Treat them nice, be nice to them. They're here for you.
Yeah.
And then, but the turnover rate was just too high and it's inconsistent. It's hard. You can't
It
do that.
is. It's hard work. They're not paid enough, really, but at the same time,
Mhm.
you know, people can't afford it.
Yeah,
Those hours add up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, it's expensive to get somebody in to be consistent. So we've come to, my recommendation always was towards the end is find a family member that you can pay to at least make it worth it if you can. Then you're paying somebody that you know
Hmm.
and somebody who's doesn't feel the burden that they're coming over to help you. It's amazing how just giving them some money
Yes,
helps, and that helps kind of make it one accountability, but I think there's a little less stress. Like we have a cousin that helps out my mom, so
mm,
we pay her, and that helps. It helps her, it helps my parents, and it allows somebody they know. And then there's some kind of my cousin has her do. I have to do my exercise. I have to do things because she can't fight that. So I think there's some benefits now. It's finding somebody that's willing to do that, but it's much rather to pay somebody that you know or
hmm.
that's a family member. Just it helps. It really
Yeah,
helps again
I
in
could
that
see how,
situation where just they're always asking me for something. I can't believe they want me again.
yeah, but I could see how giving them a little bit of money would almost like legitimize what they're doing and make them feel more valued as opposed to just a slave and for free. I don't have time for this. And
Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. Hmm.
yeah, because it happens. Yeah, because you've seen that where if the you get a granddaughter or somebody to come over and it's work. They got to
Yeah,
leave their job and they got to come over. They got to do something, and I'm like, well, what would it mean to give them? I don't know, $10, give them
yeah.
$15, give them something every time they come over. Even if you don't call it pay,
Hmm.
it is something to say, hey, it's giving them that their time. Everybody's time is valuable, and I think that's the one thing we learned from COVID is that our time is valuable, and what are we doing with our time, and how can we do a better job with it? So I see it again better somebody that and they may refuse, say, no, I don't want to take it, grandma. That's
Yeah.
fine. But I think by offering some of that stuff, or at least it allows things to be in a better state of mind, is the way I look at it. And it's not a burden, because the second
Mhm.
somebody sees something at a burden, they're coming in the door. I got 10 minutes. I got to get this stuff done and I got to get back out. I've seen
Yeah.
those family members come in and out of there during my treatment times, and they're a whirlwind coming in, the whirlwind going out, and then I got to de-escalate the patient for 10
Yeah.
minutes because they're so angry at what just
Yes.
happened.
Yes. Yes. Trying to get back to the therapy part, but yeah.
I
Oh my
I
God.
know. Like, well, exercise more. This is what we need to do. We need to
Yeah.
exercise.
Let
We're gonna
stress
get it
out.
out.
God. Oh my gosh. No kidding. Yeah.
Hmm.
We both have, I'm sure, many stories, many stories.
Ah,
Home
yeah.
therapy. Yeah.
Yes. I love it though. I'm sure for you too. I loved home health.
I,
I loved being in that environment and just really looking at it. You have to pretty much look at everything, the
mhm.
situation, the home, and then you really have the dynamics, because that's where most of them want to stay. So you have to really meet them where they're at and try to figure things out, as opposed to in when I was in rehab. I loved rehab and outpatient too, but
Mhm.
I didn't know what they were doing, you know?
No, you have no concept of what their entry steps are look like or what
Yeah.
their narrow, cluttered home might look like. Who knows? But I feel like in
Yeah.
the home, it's so personal. They could become a member of their family. That just, it's, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Hate the
Yeah.
paperwork and all that jazz, but love the, love the actual work,
Yeah.
at least the ones who want you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a whole nother ball of wax right there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to be sure lets people know about you and your service or anything?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing of all is at my website. So I started the name of my coaching business is In Between Seasons Coaching, and basically came up with in between seasons. As we transition through different periods of life, we're always transitioning, I should say. So we're always in between a season. We have, obviously spring, summer, winds of life, and things change. But unfortunately, by the time we get to our winter of life, we sometimes haven't learned from the other parts of life, and we don't
Mhm.
value because we're too busy looking back and not valuing. So that kind of name, it's funny. We've had that for years. My wife had a business a long time ago that would buy that same name, and I'm like, I love that name. So
Ah,
yeah, so in between seasons coaching .com, and that's where everything is. That's where the information about myself, my coaching packages, also about any upcoming events that I have. And then also people can connect to me that way, as far as if they have a business or they network or they have somewhere that, you know, they need some help, as far as maybe some paid help. Some paid caregivers are struggling of how can we get them to show up. That's another kind of offshoot that I'd like to start working with businesses as well, or organizations that help educate these caregivers so they understand, okay, I may be in my 20s and this person may be in my 80s. Okay, how are we showing up, and what do they need as well, and not just there to bathe them and to dress them.
mhm.
They're a person. How can we connect with them in certain levels? Because that's really where that connection piece, working with those paid caregivers as well, to just really do a better job of being there. It's not just a job punching a clock. It's a person.
That's a great idea. And it kind of reminds me of that discussion in the seminar that we were both in about how each of the different generations communicates differently as well. And yeah, for these paid caregivers who often are 20s, maybe 30s,
Yeah.
knowing how to communicate with the older ones. And that would be a great thing. So yeah, getting into the caregiver businesses is a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I tell you that from that conference that we went to, that was my takeaway. Like I always look and say, okay, what are my one or two takeaways?
Hmm.
And I even mentioned that to Joe. I said that was the most valuable piece to me is looking at the different generations and then what do they need? And really, and I know it's not for 100%, but
Yeah.
it's pretty close.
Yeah.
And for me, for my demographic, it was pretty close.
Me too.
It was
Yeah.
pretty accurate.
Like, oh my God,
Everything
that's
he was
me.
reading for my age is pretty much what it is. It's me. Yes, I'm skeptical. I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
like that. So I think that was eye opening, and that's not being taught. And I think that's
Yeah.
where we think everybody's going to be just like us. And I think that was probably one of the things of PT that maybe I didn't. Again, I'm great at exercising somebody, I'm great at figuring out what they need to do.
Hmm.
But I think if there was a piece that was missing, was that component of seeing, okay, what is this person? What are their life experiences? How do I maybe need to approach this a little bit differently with them? And as the older generation, they want to be explained. They want everything. And I
Yeah.
think of my mother-in-law, who's now 89. She wants to be told what you're doing, and you better deliver on everything you tell her that you're going to do. And
Uh-huh.
then you better explain again. If you're going to change, you better tell her why you changed, and there better be a good explanation, and then she'll buy it. But
Yeah.
she wants to know information, information, information. And
Hmm.
she wants you to take an hour to tell
Yeah.
it. 2 minutes. She wants everything.
Yeah, yeah. That's huge. That's huge. And for caregivers who are not within their same generation, that could be a true wall between them. Yeah.
Yeah, because you try to do it like you would want it. Well, I need this, and I just want it
Uh-huh.
done, type of thing. And that's not how it works. And we really learned that with Leona at 90, as we did the end of life, is really meeting her where she was at,
Hmm.
having those conversations of saying, okay, well, this is the way she needs it, and if we do need to help her, we did explain things. We had to explain a little bit more. Now we had a touch of dementia in there, which kind of complicated the matter a little bit, but yeah, we talked to her about this is what we're going to do is never come in here and just start putting her shirt on and doing all the things we need to. We had to sit and we had to discuss what we were going to do. And okay, so what do you think about doing it this way? Or how would you like to get dressed? Where would you like to sit? And have her make those decisions because they also want to have a say in how they're doing it. And
Hmm.
we've seen it too many times where I've watched a caregiver come in, not ask one question, and completely dress somebody or undress them without even saying a word to them. And you could just tell how frustrating that is and how
Yeah.
demeaning that is.
Yeah. Like treating them like a child. It's just
It,
demeaning and yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah.
is, and it's sad to see that. And then when you add in that dementia component, which is even more complicated
Mm.
because they don't understand, and you can't treat them. They're not little kids in a big body. They
Yeah.
they basically are human beings that, again, ask. You may not get the answer you want. You may have some frustration, but you need to talk to them. You need to that's the way you get because they're going to meet your energy. That's the other thing. You come
Yeah.
in there with this force,
Yep.
they're going to meet you with anger. So you have to come in with compassion and openness and love. And how do you step in there?
Mm.
That's how you succeed in that with that demographic. And you're still not going to succeed 100%,
Yeah.
but you do better than zero.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I see big things for you, Pete. This is wonderful. I'm really excited about what you have to offer. So I certainly wish you the best with this endeavor. So,
I
oh,
appreciate that.
all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really think people are going to get some good use out of your what you have to say, and I hope they check out your website. We will be including all your information in the comments below so they can check you out.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Michelle. Thank you for the time.
You're very welcome.